Welcome to our series on growing in love. This first installment is through what? Non-judgment. Well, my research for the talk led me to such high places. On the internet now, there are so many wonderful little snippets of really deep wisdom and insight and expanding our understanding of our own nature and the way the mind works and the way science functions as a result of our intention. And one of the things I was led back to was the power of now. Many of you have read this. It really was a total quantum leap, I believe, in consciousness raising for the whole culture. And now it's dovetailing with all the people that Craig Davis keeps telling me about. Dr. Bruce Lipton and Greg Davis, Greg Braden, and then the other third guy, Joe, what's his name? Dispenza. They're teaming up and doing conferences together, and it's just amazing how the theme of all of this work, the message behind it is coming down to just a common theme, that we are divine, that we are free and unlimited and eternal and perfect and beings of consciousness, as is God. So all the derivatives of that, it just takes every moment of every day, being completely in the now, being fully present to experience the fullness of that. So before I begin today's talk, which I sort of did already, I want to share a little bit with you about how happy and proud I am of our spiritual family. Number one, the week that I didn't make it here, I was actually back from the conference, but my car broke down and I couldn't get here. Well, things went on just amazingly well. We had a wonderful service. Everything fit together thematically. The music, we didn't have musicians even. The children had teachers. Everyone came away uplifted. That's a very good sign that when the spiritual leader is not there, the congregation still does their thing, still has a wonderful fellowship. Now, I know you're probably saying, well, we did it before you came here, Diane, but yeah, you get your muscles, soften up, you get out of the practice of it. So it was a wonderful sign of our health, as a congregation, that we pulled off a wonderful service that Sunday. Now, just a little thing that happened yesterday, very sweet. I had my master class with the Hernandez children. They all came over. There was 6 of them, 5 of them. And now I'm used to having people sit me down and say, okay, Diane, so what's happened to so-and-so? I haven't seen them in a while. And how is so-and-so doing with their surgery, and what's going on with, different people? And I'm not used to that, because where I come from in the big city, it's all anonymous. You don't mind anybody else's business. You don't talk to anybody else and say, well, so-and-so had surgery and they need help. We didn't do that in DC, none of that. So I've really gotten inaugurated, christened, baptized into the process into the reality of community here in this church, and how we help each other so beautifully. So, but would you believe that little Leonella, who is 8 years old, started asking me about different people? So, Diane, where is Catalina? Where are Catalina and her husband John? How come they're not here? And I said, oh, they've gone to Peru to visit Catalina's daughters, Lima, Peru. That's where they are, but they will be back. And they were here for a little visit this spring. She says, oh, and I missed them. Yeah. And then she says, well, what about that lady who always used to sit at the door and welcome people? And she always had such beautiful clothes. I said, you mean Gail Newton? She said, no, not her. I mean the other lady that used to sit by the door. And she says, she was always so nice to me. And she started to tear up. And she said, and I'm afraid that she might have died. And I said, no, honey, no. That's Gail Peters. She's fine. She wrote us a letter and said she couldn't make it to church anymore right these days. But she's fine. And the little girl was so relieved. And she dried her tears for Gail Peters. And I'm going to tell that to Gail, okay? And you all can too. So, our growing in love here as a spiritual community is a logical next step, an easy next step. We can do this. I thought to begin, we could gauge our current status and where we are in our growing journey in love. This is kind of a joke, actually. So just imagine that there's a chart for your progress in growing in love. Where would you rate yourself at the level that you feel you're at? Feeling that love is beyond my reach. 1 to 10? No, nobody feels that way. Feeling that love is a scary thing. Some people feel that. Feeling that love is the best of all possible worlds. I think some people make too much of a God of love. You know, they think love is the magic that cures everything. Well, it is, but you have to use it. Feeling that love is impossibly complicated. Anybody got that going on? Feeling that love is the solution to all my problems. Well, it is, but you have to use it. So I want us to sort of commit to making a resolution. Commit to making progress in your ability to love. And write on a little imaginary chart when you go home. I want you to write something in your home and put it on your mirror. That is a declaration of your commitment to grow in love through this series of presentations. And it goes like this. I am willing to grow in love. I am ready to grow in love. At the start of our journey together here, make that commitment. It will really empower, accelerate, and expand your growing in love through this experience. I am willing to grow in love. Say that with me. I am willing to grow in love. I am ready to grow in love. I am ready to grow in love. Okay, we've staked out the territory. Growing in love, what do we mean by that? It is our very purpose, our very reason for being. It is our learning in this lifetime embodiment. You can go to all kinds of fortune tellers and readers and spiritual advisors, and they may say one thing and they may say another thing, but it will all translate into learning greater love expression in this life embodiment, in this incarnation. But then how? Through non-judgment. Don't we have to make judgments as we go through life? How do we navigate through life without judging? Isn't life about making choices? This, not that. Here, not there. No, yes. Why? Because I judge that to be undesirable, so I don't choose that. Well, I suggest to you today that there is a difference between making a decision and making something mean something that's negative, or anything. Making something mean something. What are we making things mean? The experiences we encounter, the expressions of people, what do we make them mean? Therein lies the judgment that we are learning to master. Now, a study in Non-Judgement is the movie Dead Man Walking. Remember that movie? Anybody seen that? It's very old. 25 years ago, it turns out, that came out. 25 years ago. It's like, oh, good. And this is the true story of Sister Helen Prejean, who agreed to be a spiritual advisor for a man on death row. And what the whole culture was saying behind seeing that movie was that because of her non-judgment, her support of him as a spiritual being, he was able to take responsibility for what he did. You know, she visited him. She told him the only way that he could have salvation was to admit and take responsibility for what he did. And until the very last moment, well, this is in the movie, who knows what is real life, he was saying, I didn't do it, I didn't do it. When he's there in the execution chamber, he apologized to the parents of the people that he had harmed. It was very moving, wasn't it? But her spiritual service to him was only possible because she did not judge him. So now the first step to opening our hearts is to stop judging. It's in the Sermon on the Mount. It's in the power of now. If we would cultivate and master our power to love, we must seek within ourselves to be aware of our own judgments. That's the mastery. That's the trick right there. That's the life journey. That's the challenge. To wake up, to be more and more aware of how we think in our minds that we are not. We are not our minds. We have a mind, but that is not who we are. Eckhart Tolle, his first chapter in The Power of Now, says, you are not your mind. You have to master the thinking of your mind. I was going to try to find a really good excerpt from The Power of Now about not judging, but the word judging doesn't seem to appear anywhere in the text. But the word surrender does. Very similar, maybe the same. Surrender to what is, and don't make it mean anything. Fully accept what is without judging it. All right. Now, what can we say about what love is? Everything from being catfished on the internet. Oh, I love you so much. Your smile is so beautiful. Using the word love. The love songs of Bob Dylan. I've been practicing my Bob Dylan impression. That song, If Not For You. If not for you, I couldn't even see the floor. Couldn't even find the door. I just wouldn't have a clue. If not for you. And I don't make that mean that it's codependence, like I have to have you in order to be able to function, but that the energy of love that comes to me clears up everything and I can see reality more clearly. Very romantic. Love is the first word that a child wants to write. Ever tried? Do you know this, Lisa? You know, if you want to learn to write, you say, would you like to learn to write the word love? Oh, yeah. Love is the fuel of the mind. I don't know where I first read that, but it just jumped out of the page at me. It was something about education, that children, their minds can't think if they don't feel loved. Love is the fuel of the mind. Love is an energy that seeks to unite or unify. And that's really the key to understanding what love is. Love is not a feeling. Love is not an experience. It's an energy. It's a force. I like to say love is seeing clearly, molding our perceptions, which is what we do when we stop judging, to see clearly without any projection from our own intellect. Beyond time and space is love. I made that up. I like to point out that truth outranks science. beyond time and space, is love. That's in one of our bricks out there. To grow in love is to be able to make more and more of our actions infused with the energy of love. Judging is the opposite of love. It seeks to divide. Its energy is saying, not good enough, not enough. Judging is pushing away. Loving is drawing unto. And Jesus said, and I, if I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me. Love lifts us up and draws us together. Judging pushes us down and separates us. Now I want to read just a couple of quick Bible quotes where it just says in plain print, judge not. From the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus is teaching his very first great time of teaching the multitudes. He says, do not judge, so that you may not be judged. For with the judgment you make, you will be judged, and the measure you give will be the measure you get. Why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but do not notice the log in your own eye? Or how can you say to your neighbor, let me take the speck out of your eye, while the log in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your neighbor's eye. And in the book of Luke, the Sermon on the Plain, it was probably the same moment in time and remembered differently. And Luke says, similarly, he says, Luke 6:37, do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given unto you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back. Well, we know this, the law of attraction, the law of karma. What you create is what you create. What you send out is what comes back to you. Now, today, let us put these two actions together. Growing in love, that is, expanding our heart energy, and ceasing the condemnation that is the antithesis of love. See, we judge with the intellect. Shamans say that the longest journey is the journey from the head to the heart. A metaphor. The development of the heart, the locus of our energetic field, is of supreme importance for our well-being. So there seems to be a theme emerging in our work, that we read energy, that we sense vibrational quality. The quality of energy of love is a mysterious power that we have, having been created in the image and likeness of God. We are not only channels of love, we are generators of love. This series, Growing in Love, is aimed at igniting our awareness of the power we have to love. It feels like an invitation. It feels like freedom. It feels like safety. It feels like peace. It feels like excitement. Without the anointing of love, our experience of life shrivels and dries up into an arid wasteland. So no teaching on love is complete without the 13th chapter of Corinthians, and this is the only time I'll do it in the inauguration of our journey from the 1 Corinthians chapter 13. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful, does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke as a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. But when I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now, we see in a mirror dimly, but then, when we're fully conscious, then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part, but then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love abide, these three. And the greatest of these is love. Amen. Thank you. I invite you to our time of spiritual communion now. So take in some deep breaths. Relax your body. Let your eyes close so that you may dwell within. Our statement for meditation today is, in this now moment, I am aware that all is well. For as we come into the full awareness of now, all becomes exalted. All becomes seen as part of the one that is unity, that is love, that is perfect. So let's verbalize this together now. I'll say it one more time and we can say it. In this now moment, I realize that all is well. Together. In this now moment, I realize that all is well. And say it silently in your heart. As we fill with the living waters of Spirit, as we dwell in the silence. And as we give our hearts the full reign of our being, we are one with one another. We are one with all that is, through the power of divine love. And so it is. Amen.